Hello, everyone, and welcome back from the break. As the next presentation, we'll have by Marcin Karkocha, who's the Chief Technology Strategist at Caterpillar Garden. And he'll be talking about a topic that's been, I would say, a very big point of contention and discussion recently, and it is on digital sovereignty with everything that's happening in the world these days. So, with that said, and without further ado, Marcin, the stage is yours.
Thank you for the introduction. I wanted to talk today about the topic of digital sovereignty and especially one important factor of it, then how we make that we miss this risk, how it happened, especially from perspective of our IT projects. First, let me introduce the case study company, which is a bit anonymized. Even I changed the industry, but the essence of the idea is the same. Then we have a company that cooperate with military organizations, mostly from Europe, companies in Europe. They produce software for military devices like satellites, drones, and other actually imaging devices. They do advanced 3D mapping of buildings. They can say you what are the floors, what are the rooms, who is inside, what things are in. Of course, the company have full IT landscape of Azure. This is very usual in such industries because we heard a lot of times that they are GPDR ready, NIS2 ready, SOC 2, etc. Of course, environment is highly regulated as most of the customers are military, and the company must meet regulations of different countries, right? And company deliver those solutions for Poland, Italy, France, Belgium, but also more exotic countries out of Europe like Oman, Qatar, etc. Then what happened? What happened? Why we are talking about this case? Of course, USA a couple of months ago signed Cloud Act. Cloud Act, which gives US government agencies such as NSA, CIA, etc., access to data stored by US registered companies, wherever they are stored. They can be stored in Europe, they can be stored in Asia, in USA, as long as it is USA registered company, they can access this data, right? Then what happened? Of course, this is the critical crisis situation because, for example, our company can deliver very strict espionage-like data for the customer countries, right? Then we are in the situation of the big crisis. And let's go a bit back. Then what happened a couple of years ago that we are in this situation? What happened when the idea of full migration to the Azure was introduced? Then possibly you know it. This is a very common approach. How the decisions were made. Then we have a couple of factors that are usually used for doing such decision. The first factor, of course, is price. Then the solution need to be cheap. Somehow it happened that cloud is considered mostly as a saving solution, right? Then this is the first factor what they are choosing. The second one is cost of the migration, right? Vendors somehow cause that by funding migration to the cloud, which is of course very good for them from business perspective, that companies that want to migrate to cloud consider it as important factor. It needs to be funded by the vendor, right? The next one, it's very close to our topic. Legal was checked, but usually what legal? Legal from perspective of the user's country, right? Then if the GPDR is available, if NIS2 it's delivered, etc., right? Then somehow no one look if the country that provide us have something that can be a bit tricky. And the fourth factor is capabilities. If we have skills that will give us possibility to use this cloud, or maybe if we don't have, maybe some vendor we have to in the moment cooperate with have those skills, or in the end, if on the market there is availability for such skills. For example, in Poland, you have much harder to find Google Cloud engineers because most of the clouds use it are Azure and AWS. Then this is as well important factor. And what it's critical here, let's be honest, you do the same, I do the same. No one did in this picture risk assessment. Maybe small group did, but the group is very small. And to be honest, I was been there as well. I have discussed more than 100 contracts for cloud migration, for cloud adoption, and did around 30 projects for different adoptions, migrations, modernizations to the cloud for companies like manufacturing, learning, e-commerce, smart devices, but as well for very highly regulated companies like banking, insurance, telecommunication, and even government agencies. And to be honest, no one asked us if we will do risk assessment. It feels for them like relic of bureaucratic word, somehow like agile. We don't need it. Maybe there is very small group. This is my asterisk to this that some companies did it mostly on their own, and they say, for example, that our solution you will build should be, I don't know, movable to on-premise Kubernetes or something. Then in some cases, I have a couple of that. This is possible, but most of them, no. And I will give here a bit rhetoric question. Oh, sorry. What is the effect first? What is the effect that we go this way? Of course, first thing is that company that choose the solution got a bit limited understanding of the regulations of provider. No one looked deep into it. A bit weak positioning regarding the data centers because we check mostly for what we are looking for, not for what will be important from this perspective, right? Then we can, I don't know, choose regions like German West, because German West have biggest set of features in Azure, not the Poland, for example, which is the best from compliance perspective for us. Then don't checking it, give us weak positioning, and migration might be problem. We have also a bit insufficient awareness of vendor locking risks. We know somehow behind the scenes that, okay, all of this is Microsoft. Maybe it's good because we will need to skill up people only in one technology. But the second side, we don't look on it by parts of this Azure. Like, for example, you are much more secure if you choose to build your solution on Azure, but using Kubernetes, using, I don't know, MongoDB and Postgres, comparing with if you will choose, for example, I don't know, Logic Apps, Cosmos DB Core, Fabric, etc. Right? Those solutions are more complex and much harder to be replaced. And from that, we have the last two effects. What happened? One is that we don't have mitigation and contingency strategy. We don't know what will be our plan B. If, I don't know, failure happen in they rise price, that it's not attractive more longer to use this solution. we don't have way to go. We need to investigate, and as long as we're talking about price, for example, okay, we will pay more, but that is possible. But from perspective that, for example, they cut us access to the service, it can be not that happy path. And regarding that, also we don't have defined exit plan. Even all of the cloud adoption frameworks from Google, from Gartner, from Microsoft said you should have exit plan. I've seen very little companies that really did it. Then this is the effect, and you can ask rhetoric question: why it happened? I will leave you with this and instead show you the solution. Then let me introduce the solution I started using. Of course, in not all of the projects, because in the end, on my consulting side, the customer decide if they want to go with it or not. Then let me introduce a solution that is pretty 20 years old, but it's really simple and really powerful. Then what is that? It's RideLog. Maybe you heard about that, maybe you know it, but not from this perspective. I will show you today how to use it in such cases, and what you can get thanks for using it. From my perspective, is kind of the Git of product management. Then very basic but very powerful tool. And going to details, what RideLog stands for. There is 4 categories of components. For R, we have risks, then all potential unexpected problems that might occur and block us from serving our service. We have A, which can have 2 meanings. One is it can be actions, then actions that need to happen to cover the problem. Or I prefer this way, assumptions, then what things are assumed that they are like this, and what they introduce, what are potential things that happen because of this. Then we have issues, and then issues, the problems that already occurred, right, and need to be solved. Because risk is one side, we have problem that might occur, issue is it happened, and we need to take some actions. Then D stands for decisions in one option, and choices make for the projects. I usually cover it in assumptions section. And we have dependencies, then logical consequences of our decisions, of risks that we decide we will have in the project. And this is also my choice in the D letter. Then let me show you how I did it, how the RideLog looks in my cases. I usually not use this order for consulting. It's good for project management stuff because prioritize risk as the first thing, and then rest of the elements that make this happen. But I usually prefer different order. Then I start from assumptions. Assumptions. In general, the structure of the Excel I'm showing here, it's very similar for each of the category. Usually there is date, there is who find it, there is description, there is what will happen if it's right, what is the impact, and what action we need to take, plus notes about the actions. Then what we can have in assumptions, we assume, for example, that we will choose 100% of Azure native solutions. Then all of the logic apps, all of the fabrics, etc. And what we write here, that potentially, if this will become problem that we use Azure native solution, we will need to pay more for migration because we will need to redesign our solution, etc. And in action, we can put that to mitigate this topic. We can prepare a list of alternatives for these solutions and potential architecture diagrams that for solutions that can help us when migration will be needed, right? And this is the example assumption. Going further, we have next dependencies. In my case, I prefer it as we have first assumptions, then what is there, then dependencies, what it means to us, like second dependency is that some data may be processed out of Europe because, for example, some of the Azure native solutions have, versioning and backups of these versions of solution done in USA only, and it might happen, right? Then what we can do if that happen, we can do for mitigation of that, limiting parts of our solution that use it to non-sensitive data, right? Then only non-sensitive data will use these components. If we have something sensitive, don't use those components, use something another that is more, we can control it better where processes around it happen, right? Then after knowing assumptions and dependencies related with it, we can recognize our risks. It somehow is interconnected between each other, but risks in that case are direct problems, right? Like potential risk is that the USA government really will access our data, right? It's potential risk. And what is the effect of this risk? Our European government cooperation companies like militaries, intelligence units, etc., might not want to do that, right? Then this is very high probability of that because we are doing something very special, and impact is really high because we are doing something very special and we don't want to give them access to this data, right? Which introduces score, which in this case, it's really high because it's real big problem. And from our perspective, tolerance is also automatic in my write log. It should be reported and it should be immediately investigated, right? And mitigation action can be like, we should prepare migration for our image processing data and presentation to EU location. It can be on-premise, it can be in European providers' cloud, but it needs to happen immediately. And one important thing as well, we have here who is the owner. On the beginning, it can be the team, department, or something like that. But in the end, if we are going to mitigate it, we should have like owner, which is presented by name, right? That particular person here should cover it. I will tell a bit more about it as well later. And the last is issues, because we have risk that is really high impact, but it still doesn't mean it happened, right? But we can have risks that really happen, and this is issues, right? Someone really access our data, right? For example, or things like that. Then we need to take actions, right? And taking actions can be or someone access data, or for example, some of our customers recognize that they can access our data and say, we don't agree, right? Then the issue, the risk really materialize and we need to do something. Then, for example, here we schedule it high priority for planning team. to build exit plan and deliver it to our teams. And as you see here, we can write in comments what is happening now to make sure that this is live. Like, for example, external analyses were conducted. A consultation company will prepare us a plan, and we are waiting for a report. The update is on 15th of September, for example, here. We can write also in comment that our report should be by 20, and then we will start implementation. More details here, the better everyone that can look into this document can understand what happened. And after presenting it to you, I have a couple of values it gives, but as well best practices on the next slide. Then what is the value? I think it gives you a clear state. You have one document that presents you what is the current state, where we are. For me, it's also kind of the space of understanding, space for validation, examination, because you need to sit down to this document and think, okay, what risk we can have, what dependencies we have, right? And it introduces a process of doing something related with this topic, right? Then even we don't consider risk previously, but when we have this document, we need to start, right? Some of them name blank page syndrome. If we have only blank page, we will not do anything. But if we have some structure to fill, some questionnaire, we will do that, right? Then having right log in that form give you the space for thinking. Also, it builds agency, because you have owners, you have departments, you have people later on that we know must do that, right? Then we have agency. It simulates decision making, because there is plans, there is ideas what to do, there is owners that need to make something happen with this, right? Then it stimulates decision. And from my perspective, it improves transparency. This will be related with one of the best practices, but when we have it in document, everyone, not only the person that makes decision, knows what happened, right? Knows what their assumptions, what their dependencies, what their potential risk, if any issues happened now, etc. Then it's really transparent what can happen, right? And coming to the best practices, I would propose you to install all of the logs in one shared space, even that whole organization can access, to build this transparency widely, that everyone knows and is accountable to things that are written there, separated by projects, areas, business lines. It can be like, here is the right for the cloud strategy, here is the right for this project, this tool, etc. Build it with all team members, not only you. People can have also another ideas. Maybe some of them are not valid, but we will validate it and say this document is done. Always assign ownership. Someone needs to be accountable. Do regular reviews. Reviews can happen on the changes in your solution, infrastructure, etc. But also it should happen regularly for things like, okay, USA is changing something with their law. We should have this regular reviews to make sure that we know about it. What else? Track effort in the task management tool. Then have the work that was found here assign it to people in the tools they are used to do work, right? Then it will be closer for them than some other tool, right? Always refer to external tools. Then in this comment space, put the links to Jira, to Confluence, to the documents, etc. that are related with particular story. Even the story will be closed. We will have kind of the documentation, what was done, right? And the last but not least, I will say having today access to AI tools, etc. If you have, nothing in mind, what can be the risk, you can ask, right? You can ask AI and say, okay, OpenAI, Perplexity, or something. Tell me if I'm going to use this in this cloud, what are potential risks, what are potential dependencies, what are potential issues can happen for me if I'm in this situation, right? And then this is my proposal for best practices. And last but not least, when you know what to do right now, having knowledge is shared, you know what to do, right? Don't you? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Marcin. I think this was a very interesting presentation. And we've had a couple of questions flow in. So question number one, what do you think about the teaching of closed source tools, such as Microsoft, in schools? Like, I suppose, like, do you think schools should be teaching perhaps more open source alternatives? Or I suppose that's kind of where the question is trying to go.
I think this is interesting and problematic topic because from one perspective, I do a lot of validations if there is alternative, how mature is alternative, etc. And still we have a problem with maturity, especially with open source tool in areas that are not very development community related, right? We have good, alternatives for, I don't know, operating system. We have good alternatives for cloud, etc. But when we come for tools like, I don't know, let's say Jira, or let's say Confluence, or let's say, I don't know, Microsoft Word, the functionality of the alternatives is much smaller. It's much more limited. Then always, I think decision is, how big the risk is and how much value we can get taking this risk, right? Then if I will choose still US-based solution, then how much more value it gives comparing with open source, and if risk is acceptable from my perspective, right? Then, and in some cases there is no possibility to easily replace. Then we need to learn it, right? We need to learn it because there are a couple of market standards, and I think we need 10, 15 years to mature in the direction that we will have alternative for everything, right? And I will say that it will need to stay if we want or not, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a very interesting take. I remember there was even a situation, I want to say it was a couple of weeks ago, there was an article about the Austrian military migrating away from Microsoft towards LibreOffice. And it was actually, I would say, a pretty interesting indicator of, I would say, how the atmosphere on data sovereignty is shifting, especially here in Europe. And we have actually a next question coming. So do you have any, I would say, practical advice or best practices to, let's say, if it's a company which is already kind of vendor locked into, for example, Azure or AWS? Like, are there any practices that, without swapping out the entire cloud, you can take to kind of try and protect more data? And like quick actionable insights?
Yeah, I do such audits right now in my practice. And what is important to assess is how critical the software is for our business, how much we need really to control the features of this software. If we talk about, I don't know, AI model, when we have business that is AI-based, then maybe choosing which models we have, what parameters it have can be important for our business, right? But from the second side, for example, we have storage solution. As long as it stores our data, it can be A, B, C, D, right? Then I take this into consideration, how critical our solution is, because in the case that only this provider can give with us, this is US company, maybe this is our only way, right? And second one, it's how much is needed that it will be provided by vendor itself, the cloud provider, or external vendor, or if it can be external vendor, or if we are able to handle it on our own, right? Especially for open source, this is important because in a lot of open source solution, it means we will need to handle whole operational start and stuff, and maybe even development of this solution to meet our direction, right? And this is two vectors you need to understand around software you are using, solutions you are using, and for particular each one, make decision if it's right for you or not, and if there is alternatives or not, right? Then you can build map based on that, what to do, in what order, etc. Right?
Yeah, very, very interesting. And we have one more question. Don't you think that these days the wave of implementing AI and AI agents into everything is making basically this data sovereignty worse, considering that essentially almost all of the major AI providers are US-based companies?
I think there is two important parts of this situation, because first, yeah, most of them are US-based companies, etc. But what is good, it's MCP concept, because MCP concept give agents your access to your data, but don't give your data. It's like with personal data. Every website, when you log in, store your data, right? But then we go multi-factor authentication, then we get authentication provider, etc. And it mitigate a bit this risk, because you don't more give all of your data, right? You give only permission to access this data. Then I think a lot of agents and MCP is going right now standard, mitigates somehow this problem, because these data are still in the system where you have it, and AI agents only can access it, and you can always remove this access and they will not have your data, right? And I think it's not that bad.
Yeah, that's a very interesting take. Okay, so I think that's all the questions we've had. Marcin, thank you very much. And this was a very insightful presentation.
Thank you.